grab a drink as well.
Yeah, I've just had one.
Right, I need 1 second just to sort my sound out.
Yeah, no bother.
That's better, I couldn't hear the in-game sound.
Okay, so yeah, this will be my first export when I was at the Fleet Week.
Tobin Expo Center would like to remind everyone that the first step to fun is safety. Walk, don't run while exploring the halls.
So same theme, just different manufacturers, different days. So what have we got today? So main hall, downstairs, and then hall 2. Okay. So I think there's some overlap. So when Aegis goes on today, I think these stay open for a bit. Well, actually, I think it just must swap over. These must just get turned off. Let's see what they say about Argo. I'm trying to remember the law bit for Argo now, because I'm pretty sure it's to do with MPUV. So dedicated merchant transfer ship.
Yeah, I've got to read that one more. So obviously, like you were saying, like the whole A and Orion and all that sort of stuff can't land anywhere.
Yeah. And dry docks. I mentioned Huldie and Orion as well, yeah. Oh, and actually we touched on this the other day as well. So some captains choose to own and operate their own Argo, while others pay privately owned ships. Or a rental fee to do it themselves. So in a scenario where you're loading a big ship, it's not in game yet. So we'll have to see how that's done in the future, but... Unfortunately, they fly. They're so bad to fly, and we can do that a bit later with, because I can spawn a couple.
Yeah, remember the last.
They're just horrible. They just haven't been touched for such a long time. I guess not a priority either, but there is a VTOL, which is part of the landing pad, landing gear. Can we open it?
Oh, yeah, what was I saying?
Oh, you're renting it. Oh, there we go. I've got it. Got it. Actually, let's see if I'll power it up so there's maybe a bit more light.
You're not gonna get much in here.
It's tiny.
Be the cargo master
Systems on.
Yeah, so what? Let me find the SCU for it.
Judging by that, I'll probably see maybe 10, 15.
Oh, it's tiny. Blah, blah, blah. 2.
Well, so we out to be exclamations.
I mean, it looks like it could be a bit bigger than that, but yeah, on the stats it says 2.
So I'm assuming orange is like Argo's colour.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. So there is a seat in it, and then 2 SCU of cargo.
That's like I say, that's a cargo master seat now. You know, cargo netting on the side and all that.
We do have I guess a docking access on the roof. I mean, it's definitely a cool little ship, functional, but we just there's no real use for it at all in game currently.
Yeah.
I did have the brochure up for this. Let me see if I can link that as well.
But I mean, even like these small ships, the detail that's on them is pretty amazing. Just a shame they didn't wash this one before they brought it in, like, you know, it's a bit funky.
Yeah. So I've got the brochure up, which is interesting because you don't normally link on these. I'll see if there's anything interesting in it. I'll just quickly flick through it. So we know we've got the 2 here. So we've got this one and we've got the passenger one. So it is a modular undercarriage. So there's supposed to be a variety of different pods that it can use. It's been mentioned before, but we don't have one. So we have the hauling transport, apparently a repair, and even a search and rescue. I know the search and rescue has been mentioned before. So could be. We need the gameplay. So loading, unloading, or whatever that would be. You're going to need a support ship because there's no quantum with it, but you can imagine, you know, using one of these from another ship, one of the hangar bays, to either offload people or go and grab something.
But I mean, to be fair, like so the Javelin or the Idris would probably have one or two of these, I would imagine.
So the Idris has a dedicated cargo bay for the or hangar bay for the Argo, and so does the Javelin. So it's not obviously the Idris has got that big landing bay in the middle, and then the Javelin has that one on top. These are separate to that. There is a separate dedicated Argo bay, so it will be for offloading personnel and or cargo, but at 2 SCU that's going to be interesting.
I think it's spent a week trying to put the
Yeah.
stuff in a Javelin.
So they show, there's a picture in the brochure of the rescue pod exterior, and it's the same as the passenger one by the looks of it. Probably a bit more to it. I'll just flick through it. We're done. There's not really any of the details there.
So now I can imagine with something like this, like your Idris or your Javelin, you'll probably have 10 or 15 of these, maybe there's 20 of these just shuffling backwards and forwards, dropping stuff in and out, like, you know what I mean?
Could do. I think it'd be interesting to see when we are loading cargo, and certainly the bigger ships that are landable, like the Hull series. Yeah, some of the big Hull series ones like the C or the D, if then there is some physical loading, these are going to come into play. The SRV, which we'll see that in a minute as well. might be part of that, or you at least might see it back and forth loading while you go off and do something else. We'll have a quick look at the passenger one. Actually, the search and rescue pod I think maybe looked a bit bigger, but maybe it was the same. So I'm not too sure. I'm not 100% for the Idris, but the Javelin uses these personnel pods as escape raft or. So the idea of the search and rescue, I guess, is that if you've got an Argo on another ship, you can then go and pick these pods up.
This is a friendly reminder to stay aware of your surroundings and keep an eye on your belongings at all times. We want to make sure that your working day
Okay,
stays.
we came through it.
Cool. Thought we'd lost you.
We also kicked them as well.
Typical. Yeah, saying about the escape pod bit on the personnel one, because interestingly they're marked ages as well, but we're way off that type of gameplay. Should do. If it's a long load, it'll just load you back in. But I'll carry on to the
Yeah,
Greycat. I can just chat to you. Got the rock. Not played around massively with the rock, but
it's supposed to be a lot more stable this patch or than when 312 coming in.
yeah, I did test it in the P2U, so it was working better in the P2U this time round. So hopefully that's come across into live. But I think the current mining mechanic with having to scan for stuff, of course you can do it solo, but you've got to go and pick up the rock from somewhere, then fly around scanning for minables, then land your ship, unload the rock, go and do your mining, and then so on and so forth. There's quite a few steps in it, but it'll be interesting down the road if mining is find a big patch or something, so you can't take it all in one go. Having a couple of people working with a rock might be more feasible then, or multiple rocks all on the same place.
Greycat Industries are proud to have their latest efforts on full display here at the expo.
We'll see some use of some of the bigger ships then in terms of transporting vehicles as well, because we don't have that at the moment. There's not really a need to transport vehicles unless you're rock mining on your own. Little buggies.
Back in the bed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just one tram over.
Right, I've got the same problem.
Out here, you've got your crew
Oh, you're stuck
and
again.
your ship.
Just give it a minute in case it's just loading
The
it
only
in.
thing that matters is getting the job done. This is your workshop, your playground, your command center. This is your multi-operator laser extractor. Argo Astronautics, building your future.
Oh no, I don't think it's gonna work.
Out here, you've got your crew.
Yeah.
and
Try
your ship.
reload. If you
The only thing that matters
if you're doing Alt F4, it should just keep your spot on the server.
This is your workshop, your playground, your command center. This is your multi-operator laser
But
extractor.
I'm looking around the mole anyway. I know you've seen the mole.
Argo Astronautics, building your future.
Well, same channel, right?
Out here, you've got your crew and your ship.
We'll go up to the bridge.
Is getting the job done. This is your workshop, your playground, your
I don't like the
command
wheel.
center.
It's a little too. I find it a little too shiny inside. But it has that. It's definitely got that industrial feel.
Out here, you've got your crew.
Let's see if I can power it up.
The only thing that matters is getting the job done. This is your workshop, your playground, your command center. This is your multi-operator laser extractor.
Systems on.
Yeah.
Argo Astronautics, building your future.
Actually, we should have had a look. Third person.
Out here, you've got your crew and your ship. The only thing that
I'd like
matters
to remind
is
everyone
getting the job
that
done.
to fun is safety. Don't run while exploring the halls.
This is your workshop, your playground.
It really is. I think it is the only ship really that has functional multiplayer gameplay currently.
Operator laser
Do you think that would be right to say?
Oh yeah.
Argo Astronautics, building your future.
But it's only functional gameplay if you've got
Yeah, yeah. Otherwise, you're blowing up the rocks, blowing up the shit.
yeah,
Have a look at the turret.
And your
shit
ship.
that I'm here, but that's really well, I haven't done much baiting before.
The
but
only
I
thing that
I
matters
took up probably
is getting the job done.
half the world that team.
This is your workshop, your playground. This is your multi-operator laser extractor.
Yeah, so it's the
Argo Astronautics,
skill-based
building your
gameplay,
future.
isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean,
I think it's good.
100 times better than what I was back then, sort of thing.
enter ship.
Oh, I can't activate the turret.
The only thing that matters.
Mistakes, mind you.
This
You
is
hit,
your work.
hit a little bit of a lag spike.
Your playground.
Yeah.
Exit.
Command center. This is your multi-operator laser extractor.
I didn't realise the front turret was so low down as well. It's been a while since I've had a proper look round. Whatever these are.
Out here.
Little rec room.
Enter ship. The only thing that matters is getting the job done. This is your workshop. Your playground. Your command center. This
Yeah, the bags. Yeah, dropping off the bags. We'll have a look at that, actually.
Argo Astronautics. Building your future.
Have your cargo run up, pick them up.
We were saying this the other day with the, like, it's an interesting choice to make the side turrets make you sit outside.
The only thing that matters.
Yeah,
This is your workshop. Command center. This is your multi-operator laser extractor. Argo Astronautics. Building your future.
First step to fun is safety. Walk, don't run while exploring the halls.
Bye.
Out here. You've got your crew
That would do if
and
you
your
wanted
ship.
that's what I would say.
The only thing that matters.
Yeah, it's actually got I guess storage for some form of armor or environment suit right next to it before you actually go into the outside bits. That's cool.
Multi-operator laser.
But that's still open. That should be closed. Otherwise, it'd vent all the air.
Building your future. Out here. You've got your crew and your ship. The only thing that matters is getting the job done. This is your workshop. Your playground. Your command center. This is your multi-operator laser extractor.
I was having a look at the bags because you can actually see the. Obviously, they've expanded out. They don't function yet to drop off, but you can actually see the ones stacked ready underneath them. So when you drop one set off, obviously the next one would expand out.
You've got your crew and your ship. The only thing that matters.
So if you kept filling them up at some point, you'd run out of bags or have to go and empty them and attach them back on. I guess. Don't know how that's going to work.
Well, so you've got the weight on that
Multi-operator laser extractor.
spares, I would imagine, yeah.
It looks like there's 16 spare.
Ah, right, okay. Yeah, you fill your initial gate, the next gate
Out
comes
here.
on,
You've got your crew
Yeah.
and your ship.
that's quite the whole map that you've got somebody ready to pick up, like, you know what I mean?
The only thing
Because
that
it's similar with the Prospect, so it doesn't use all the bags, so it kind of,
this is your workshop.
you could mine more per trip, but obviously you'd be leaving bags somewhere. You'd still have to figure out how to get them back. That's hopefully. I mean, it all lends itself to that multiplayer gameplay, dependencies on someone else wanting to do freight running. coming to help you. Of course, you could do it on your own, but as soon as you get another player involved, you can just do a lot more.
Yeah, that's it. And that's where
You've got your crew
trust comes in.
and your ship.
Yeah, yeah, you could pick up the bags and just go and sell them yourself. But yeah, thanks, mate. See you later. Well,
You're only going to trust people that you know.
yeah, and I think that lends itself. Then you hit the nail on the head. You've got to trust, but you've also got to secure them. There's nothing to stop someone else coming and picking those bags that you've put down. So, yeah, do you need someone escorting you or not? I mean, probably be fine, but if you don't have an escort and that guy, someone else turns up or another group says, hey, we're mining here, those are our resources, you're going to have to defend it. So it just lends itself to, I guess, emergent gameplay as well then. I mean, it's down the road, but...
This is your workshop,
Well, that's how I mean, I've
your
been
playground,
watching some of
your
the
command center.
piracy videos, and obviously,
This
we're on the moon
is your
with the rock.
multi-operator laser extractor.
Yeah.
Making vehicles ready to work
Argo
takes
astronauts,
hard work.
building your
Argo
future.
Astronautics and Greycat Industries are proud to have their latest efforts on full display here at the expo. Ready and waiting to help you tackle the toughest
Yeah.
Put them in a carrick, and these guys take one of them's got a madness, so the
Out here,
EMP him.
you've got your crew
The guy
and your ship.
they shoot him in the head.
The only thing you know is
And we ended
getting the job done.
and then the sweet man is
This is your
Yeah.
workshop.
So, I mean, even that, at some point you'll be able to go and sell that stuff. You can't do it at the moment, but yeah, whose fault is that? Because you wanted to do it solo and didn't have an risk versus reward. Of course, you can do it solo if you pull it off, all the profits are yours. But if you share a bit of those profits with someone else, you have the security. If you then add another person in there that needs to be paid for the work they're doing, and it's more efficient, so you might end up with more money overall because now you can mine more. Someone's running it back and forth, and you've got someone securing it. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I was going to quickly run through the Q&As because I think some of them are kind of good. We probably answered some of them.
This is your multi-operator laser extractor. Argo Astronautics, building your future.
Yeah. So yeah, all the lasers are independent, so you need them manned. There was something about NPC crew. So at some point, even with that scenario we were saying then, with a mole, you can pilot it, but then you can't do the guns. So you're going to need crew or inverted brackets NPC crew. But it did say here, any NPC could be assigned to the job, but some will be better skilled than others. So we've spoke about this before about some NPCs will be good at this, some might not like the UEE. There's going to be lots of variations on it, or so we're told. So I think the example in that one was if you're flying a more combat-oriented ship and you've got someone or an NPC in your turret that doesn't like the UEE, they might just open fire on the UEE if there's any near, which you may not want. You may not want to happen because then you're going to get the UEE after you. So whatever stats they have for NPCs, you will want to be checking and making sure, isn't it? You're kitting out or hiring them for the ships that they're suited to or missions you're suited to.
Your playground, your command center. This is your multi-operator.
And I don't. You touched on it as well with people being skilled at it, and said the same here. You could assign a non-mining trained NPC to fracture a rock, but they won't operate it efficiently and may even occasionally blow the ship up. In all fairness, that happens with human players, even if you know what you're doing. So yeah.
You've got your crew and your ship.
So no refinery abilities, we knew that.
It matters. It's getting the job done.
We can change the mining heads, so we know that.
Your playground.
there's a few different debuffs and stuff that you can do when you're mining with different lasers. Different. It's just like an upgrade.
Laser extractor.
Also, you've got the consumables.
Argo Astronautics. Building your future.
And to be fair, even when I'm making a few prospects,
Out here, you've got your crew and your ship. The only thing that matters is getting the job done. This is your workshop, your playground.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah, I can see you now.
This is your
Yeah.
multi-operator
So we know there's been some mention of
Argo Astronautics.
not just multi-crew play, because I think that's been worked on now, but also potentially like a bit wider multi-ship play, so you can be in a larger party and someone's obviously sending instruction stuff. But we kind of touched on that a little bit earlier with, you know, you're out there on your own. Do you have someone running back and forth so that you can stay out mining, and do you have an escort? But as you mentioned in the patch notes here, in the Q&A notes, it is intended to work alone, as in the ship can go out on its own, but it will be able to operate in a party with refinery and logistics ships to process and transport the ore. So there's lots of rumours about a mini refinery ship, isn't there? We don't know what's happening with the Starfarer in terms of refining, but again, that argument of if there are in the future what's supposed to be floated is larger patches of resources. So if you go and find something, it's a big patch of resource that you cannot take all in one go. So currently you find something, you can pretty much mine all of it and it's disappeared, then off you go and find a scan for another one. But if you're finding these big patches, then all this logistics comes into play, defending it, guarding it, which would be good.
This is your multi-operator laser extractor.
you get the pioneer load.
Argo
I'm
Astronautics.
assuming that
Building your
you may be
future.
able to build a small refinery facility, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a very good segue, Biv. So if you want to follow me, because I know we've gone over the time we said we were going to do this.
Yeah, actually, for that, I'm quite happy to
Because if I remember right, the Pioneer's on one of the holograms.
Yeah.
They have built it like a proper exhibition hall, haven't they? Like the size and everything. Because you can imagine they've actually built it for like hundreds of visitors. And we can't quite support that yet. Let's have a quick look. We did downstairs, so this is the last bit. Mustang.
Always ready to take risks. Consolidated Outlets invites you to explore the
Oh, they were downstairs. Damn it. Actually, we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. We'll leave the Nomad. We'll just have a quick look at the Mustangs. So we're going to ignore that one. Which one's that? Mustang Gamma. They're all just variants. But the reason I couldn't... Yeah, here we go. So you should be able to do this as well in the pilot seat. And then you can find the option to exit to the rear. There is a little habitation thing on some of them.
Oh, right, okay then.
So it is a starter ship. It's Consolidated Outland starter ship. I'm not quite sure how you do box deliveries on it. It's not really one that I use.
I know there's a hatch at the back of it where you can park it.
Oh, that might be... okay, so maybe you can do box missions with it. So you've got bed, so you can be independent.
I know there is on the other ones.
Do I have to get back into? Yeah, it's all like the pilot seat is the link in. It's the only way in and out
Actually, it might be one.
that I know of, anyway. So I think there's a combat. I'm not going to really go into these, but there's a combat-oriented one, cargo, a racing one, yeah.
So actually, it might be the ones who are going to force it. That's not the cargo at the end of the
Yeah, I don't think there was any.
You can do a fake club in the back of that Nomad, couldn't you?
Yeah.
First one knocked out. Well, knocked off its lure.
So it's not really a new category of ship, but they've put it in as a, I guess, advanced starter ship. So it's just a little bit more
Yeah.
in terms of cargo and in terms of your living quarters and I guess amenities, your weapons. So you can take on a little bit more. It's pretty cool. Yeah, just the tips.
So obviously, yeah, going back to what I was saying earlier, when the advert for this, obviously they've done away with the land instruction to put these sort of grab level sort of thing in.
Yeah, so that is it landed. It doesn't. We were testing this today because it doesn't slide around. We thought you might be able to land and then kind of drive it on the ground. Maybe that's it's just an unknown because it's that new. There's no Q&A. There's no
Yeah, well, I was going to
info
say,
about it at the moment.
because obviously for that to float, it's got to have some sort of the power's got to be on all the time, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it doesn't crush you going under it. So, well, not that it's. Of course, it's a game, so it doesn't have to be ultra realistic, but.
It does look nice.
So I think it's 24 SCU cargo. You can get a rock in it. You can fit a Tundra in it. I wouldn't have thought of Ursa Rover, but no, yeah, you can't. We tried that was earlier. But I always used to argue that the Cutlass Black, if you were doing rock mining on your own, or even with two of you, one flying around, the other one just operating the rock, the Cutlass Black was probably the best one you could use. Freelancer was a bit fiddly. Anything bigger, of course you can do it, but it's just, I guess, not as efficient. And I think this one now, it just pairs so nicely with the rock. There isn't any other advanced, in inverted commas, starter ship that can carry a vehicle that big. So.
And yeah, and obviously it touches on when we had the Star running out. Yeah, you consider rocking that, but you would either hand in the hydrogen fuel before you leave.
It's too big, yeah. It's too big, so absolutely you could do it, but it's just not efficient.
Yeah, and obviously this goes back to obviously some of the gameplay that we've been doing lately, where some of the missions you can't even take a big ship anymore.
Yeah, so with the changes to terrain that they've been doing and improvements, it's a lot easier to drive around now, and in that regard, it's also a lot easier to land. There's a lot more kind of flatter areas that you can find for bigger ships. But that said, certainly around points of interest, they have been putting more kind of larger rocks that mean it's not so easy to land the larger ships there. Which again, of course you can use them, but it's going to be way easier on a smaller ship, especially if you just want to be in and out. Oh, I didn't notice that chair. Slide in and out. Components.
Oh, it's at above, components. Oh, right, yeah.
I don't think all the stats are up yet. 2 small computers, small radar. Yeah, it's all small. 3 small shield generators. So that's fairly good. It's fairly big. It's really good. Again, advanced starship. Fortunately, a little bit more of a pledge, but I don't know what the in-game value is or anything yet. I don't think we've seen anything for that.
Yeah, but I think, look, even with this, let's see with the Star, I mean, this is pretty well made as well, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, they're definitely getting better. I might have just left the ship, or member left. That's party.
It's just a 30k incoming.
Oh. Well, I think the landing gear is interesting, but the most interesting bit really is the external cargo. Whether it gets blown away.
But I like the way the ladder folds away and everything on it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Let's see if any of this gets put onto the Pioneer. Actually, yeah. Let's move on because we've got to go back out the way we came. It flies quite nice as well.
Yeah, I'll have to have a look. Get it.
But definitely with stuff like the rock, you can see a starter route now. So with there's kind of limited persistence in game now. So
Yeah.
you know, with every patch it used to reset. So massively frustrating. But we were all then having to do a starter path, isn't it? Starting from scratch every time. But you can see a path with that Nomad.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Argo Astronautics, building your future.
And then using it for rock mining, getting enough money to a prospector, and then you're starting to move on and upwards. And that's without involving anyone else. So
Oh yeah. And I mean, it is totally doable. You know what I mean? It doesn't. I know from my own experience where I just had the Aurora. Yeah, granted, I was great with the flat, but I rented a prospector, made some money, all that stuff. So it is totally doable.
yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know if you can rent the rock, but that would be. I'll have to check into that. It'd get someone at least established, then, isn't it? Buying your own things. Let's go right first. Do you know what I was thinking? Oh, there's nothing here because of the size of the room. I was like, fuck. Turn around. There we go. SRV.
Yeah, so this isn't in the game yet, is it?
No.
This is the one with,
Attention visitors to the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo. Please take care.
it's like a tugboat thing, isn't it?
Remember, they're here for everyone's enjoyment.
Yes. I was trying to move the camera. Maybe so.
Pitch drops to and then you get out now again.
You know, it's Argo, so I've got a feeling looking at the front, it might be like the doors on the
Ah, yeah, possibly.
MPUV,
Yeah.
and that's only because we were looking at it today. So it's supposed to be a tugboat, but I think one of the concept images showed it actually carrying a big container. So a bit like, I think the smaller Argo SPUVs will be used for small cargo, but when you're looking at some of the larger ships, I think it probably would be the SRVs that will be loading.
I'm just gonna grab another couple of bottles.
Yeah, cool.
This is a friendly reminder that the Tobin Expo Center is a STEM-free environment. Please refrain during your visit and have an amazing day. Making vehicles ready to work hard takes hard work. That's why Argo, Astronautics, and Greycat Industries are proud to have their latest efforts on full display here at the Expo.
Let's try and see if I can get the concept images up, because they showed doing a couple of things. So I've got the Q&As up again on this one. Get a better angle. So they show it carrying cargo. They actually mentioned in the first question on the Q&A that it is one of the design goals was to enable it to carry cargo around. So unloading the larger cargo ships, and it mentions the whole series. It's a perfect use of the SRV. So this will be the larger containers. So we've seen them in the new hangar bays, but obviously we're not using them yet. And this is when, in the future, where there will actually be, I guess, some form of physical loading of the ship when you're taking cargo and unloading.
Thing is, and I might sound that, but
Attention visitors to the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo.
itself really, if you want to, you want to take combat and all like that, you just
Everyone's enjoyment.
plug yourself at a space station.
Yeah.
And supply ships all day if you wanted to.
It's kind of I mean, one of the I guess controversial things about Star Citizen is the funding model, isn't it? With the pledging, and is it pay to win or isn't it pay to win? But someone's pledged enough and a decent chunk of cash, and they've got a whole E. They've still got to go somewhere and pay people. There'll be pay a fee to NPCs or to other people to load it, and there'll be someone that just had a basic pack start ship that's earned their way up and bought. I don't think these like prospector price range. So I can't remember how much a prospector is to buy, but like $1 million and 2 mil. It's achievable. But importantly, you can rent them as well. So like 40,000 AUC is just a couple of box missions, half an hour of your time, and you can rent one for a day. You've got someone that's pledged for the game and they turn up in a big Hully. It's going to need loading, and you've played the game. You haven't done one of these big pledges, and all you've done is starter pack. You've earned enough money to rent an SRV. Just hover around a big station. I think the bit will be knowing which hubs are going to be busy to do, and do the loading and unloading to earn a bit of extra cash. So, I wouldn't. I think pay to win, I don't think really is the right way of kind of arguing against it or whatever. But you're not disadvantaged.
To me, yeah, you can buy these bigger ships and all like that, and to me, I do think it is pure to win because you've find the cost of running them big ships, you know what I mean? So,
Well, the interdependency. So we're touching on the same bit there, Viv, because you still need someone to help to do the loading and unloading. You know, of course, so that might be able to do it itself or with a group of friends. But if there's this type of ship, this SRV one, is perfect for that. Also, the search and rescue. So the concept art also shows it, tugging as a tugboat. So it uses a tractor beam to pull the ship that might have run out of fuel, or stuff like that. So it's actually it's multi-purpose ship. Even if you were renting one, you can do multiple stuff with it.
no, what I was trying to touch on is, say somebody's got themselves in, say, a javelin or whatever, you know, I mean, when you first start the game, and you've got that ship, you're not going to be able, well, yes, you'll be able to use that ship, but once your fuel runs out, you're not going to have enough money to automatically use it again, do you know what I mean? So it's not pay to win as such, you know what I mean? Yeah, somebody pays to get a big capital ship, but you still need the outlay in game to keep that ship running.
Yeah.
You're going to have to go back to the smaller stuff, you know, to build up your credits, to keep the ship running, keep it in working order, keep it supplied, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, all the support and logistics with it.
Exactly.
It's a cool ship. I like the look of this one. I'd be interested to see it in game and with some gameplay.
And obviously it'll be like the other Argo one, it'll let the pilot drive it.
This one does.
Right, okay. Well, I'm just looking at the back here, them two cylindrical discs there, that must be for clamping big cargo boxes, I would imagine.
It's that larger disc in the middle that moves around. That it's some form of like I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it, like tractor beam or something like that.
I'm assuming that the two discs on the back will probably clamp them. It'll tractor it up, and then them two discs will probably clamp it in place, you know what I mean?
Always ready to take risks. Consolidated Outlands invites you to explore their brand new
Yeah, you'd like to see it moving or something, wouldn't you? See how it actually does work, but not quite sure how far that would be off. We're getting a handheld tractor beam soon.
Yeah, it's like patching it.
We came in that way, so we can go this way around. So maybe we'll see some functionality for it coming game. Well, we'll probably see the functionality coming game before the ship does. So here we go.
Now I don't like this.
Pioneer.
Just the options, the gameplay options, and obviously when they had the dev videos on the homesteads and that.
Yeah.
This Pioneer is going to be able to do so much more than just bog standard homestead sort of thing.
So this is the top level, I guess, or top offering from Consolidated Outlands. Is their capital ship. But it was. No, you can't really get a sense of size. I mean, I'm trying to zoom in on the cockpit area, but it's not really a cockpit. It's more like a bridge.
The only way you can sort of get a size of it is when you look at the front where they've got their boxes in the front. Now, were they full-size containers or and if they are, then this thing is massive.
See some turrets, but the landing pad here, it's not a hangar, it's a landing pad, is freelancer size. So, I don't know, 40 meters, I think, something like that. Well, let's go to the front one with those boxes. But it's just, it's supposed to be, essentially it's 2 manufacturing lines either side, and the idea was that it would stick the resources in, and it would prefab or start to build a prefabricated habitation unit. There'll be some options of what you could build, but like what you're saying with the homestead kind of work in progress stuff they showed us not so long ago. It seems that they're expanding that now because it doesn't look so. The prefabricated stuff would mean that if you built a habitation, unit and dropped it on a inhospitable planet or something like that, they'd all be the same. And the homestead stuff was all looking like actually there'll be some form of customization in it, or something to do with the actual resources from the area you were on, or moon you were on.
Need the variation, don't you?
Yeah.
And like you say, going back to resources on whatever planet you go on, because yeah, you take stuff with you to initially start off, but then you can start mining stuff on whatever planet you're on, and that stuff will be indigenous to that planet, so that's whatever the planets are. How the textures of your
Yeah.
rooms is and all that sort of stuff, you know.
We'll show our age now, and then if you think the Star Wars galaxies, didn't it? Tatooine had its own type of housing style and everything, wasn't it? So that it didn't look out of place. I think there was a standard one, but we did have some different ones for some of the different planets.
Yeah, and the thing with the
Attention visitors to the intergalactic aerospace
you can only put
Please take care of your room
certain planets.
display. Remember, we're here for everyone's enjoyment.
Like within the design of the planet sort of thing.
Yeah.
You had like the desert type ones for Tatooine and that, you know, but you did have a generic one which you could put down. But you had, like you see, different styles for different planets.
Just trying to see if we can pick out any details.
I'm sure my age, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
This is a friendly reminder that the Tobin Expo Center is a step-free environment. Please refrain during your visit and have an amazing day.
It was. I can't remember which I did first. It was that one on Planet Side for me. But this is. I think what we've both seen in Star Citizen is almost stuff going back to those days. That flexible, the crafting and everything. The fact that you could go. I mean, you couldn't do anything. Obviously, it's very dated now as well. But there hasn't really been a game since then that tried to do so much, wasn't it? You were working around in first person or third person. The spaceships and stuff like that.
I've played a lot of games, a lot of MMOs, and the crafting side and all the rest of it. And I've got to admit, nothing's ever touched on the crafting that Star Wars Galaxy had. Because you think you've made something that serve our best, and then next thing you know, there's another spawn comes out, and they can improve on that again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just the amount of components
That's why
that you
Argo,
can get.
Astronautics, and Greycat Industries are proud to have their latest efforts on full display here at the expo. Ready and waiting.
Yeah.
Sparkly burns and all that, you know. I mean, this stuff was like rare stuff, and that would improve on the gear that you made as well. But they were hard stuff to get there, you know what I mean? And even then, the drops of them, they weren't all the standard set of variables for. So you drop a Rango, they weren't all the same. They all had different variables.
First step to fun is safety.
It was finding that
Don't
one,
run
that
while
code
exploring the halls.
where you can make yourself something great, you know?
Yeah, just that right combination.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what I loved about the crafting was so complicated on that. It was unbelievable. Because not only, I don't know how much into the crafting you were. I've done a bit of medical crafting and stuff like that, but the amount of stuff that you've got to make, and you couldn't just make it within your own profession. You had to go and
This
see
is a friendly
somebody else
reminder to stay aware of your surroundings.
to make
Keep an
you
eye on your
something.
belongings at all times.
Component for whatever you
Make
had
sure
to
that your
make, so
perfect
it's
day
got an
stays
interaction
that way.
in that way as well, if you know what I mean.
I think I'd like to think that we're going to have the same here because we're already seeing bits of it, and even on the, when we were just describing the mold stuff, the logistics of it involves a number of different professions, different people, different ships.
You don't want to be doing everything yourself because that'll get boring. And
Attention visitors to the
to me,
intergalactic aerospace
I think
expo.
you've got to
Please
have
take care of your
that variation.
Yeah. I mean, even this, there's nothing to say at some point you can't get Pioneer and go off on your own. It's just going to be really slow because you have to go and get all the resources. You know, even without paying for anything, you could do it yourself. You know, just rent, do little missions to rent enough to get a prospector or something to go and mine the resources you need. You're gonna have to store them somewhere, and then hire someone or ask, hire a pioneer, whatever, however that's going to work. Go and build your little habitation somewhere. But
That's it. I mean, I can say, well, what I can envisage, I think, is that if you've got one of these, because obviously not a lot of people have them, well, there will be a lot of people, but on the grand scale of things, when you take it from the company that will be there, there'll be few and far between this sort of stuff, so you're going to have to advertise yourself and say, right, I've got this, yeah, if you want something built, get in touch with me, we'll discuss a price for building.
Always ready to take risks. Consolidated Outlets invites you to explore their brand new ship, Nova.
yeah, I think people will have already kind of thought along those lines that they'll just the game appeals to so many different types. If you're into FPS, there'll be people that will play it just for that. They've got no interest in your ships. Just you fly me onto that ship and I'm doing boarding. You know, there'll be people that will heavily be into that type of thing, and vice versa. There'll be people that have no interest in FPS, but are happy to fly people around. There'll be people that have no interest in combat, and then you've got stuff like this. You're going to find people that will love doing stuff like that and just building it for people.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've always said, and you're probably the same mindset. I mean, yeah, I do like a bit pew FPS and all that, but it's not my main game focus. I want to be more supply line logistics.
Yeah.
You know.
So I think I'm gonna bring us back to the Pioneer because one, we're here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And two, absolutely, even this one, the logistics behind it's really, I guess, a group thing, isn't it? You could put an individual house or something down for someone, but they've touched on a few different things in terms of you might be able to drop a mining facility down, so that would mine whatever resources, I guess, are there or underneath it. But that doesn't mean you can only do that. You can drop a HAD down. You can build landing pads. So you are building essentially a little town. And from the recent stuff that they did on the Homestead work in progress, I think if you zoomed in on some of the art pieces, you could see like a large warehouse, medium warehouse, common room or common building, something like that. All these different things that are potentially there. So you're almost building like a small town. It doesn't have to be on resources. You might just find somewhere that's really nice looking and want that to be a centre of your little focal point or group meeting point, or just where you live.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it'll be a case of, right, say you want to build a mining facility, you've got to have certain resources for that. If you want to build a landing pad, you've got to have certain resources for that as well. So I don't think I think you'll have your base generic resources that you would need for things. But if you wanted to make it into like a specialised facility, you might have to get other resources as well. If you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's massive. It's a massive shit, and I wasn't really going to talk about all of this, but it links into. Every profession links into other ones, but it links into exploration because of the land claim system. So if it's in UEE space, you've got to put a land claim down and register it as yours. There'll probably be some cost involved in that, but that means it needs to be scanned, a beacon put down, and then data running, I guess, to take that data back and actually register it. So you could find some perfect area for yourself, and if someone else finds it and registers it before you, then they've got the rights to it. But that then comes into go on, sorry.
Say it becomes a race then, doesn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On this, I've got to get back quick and claim it, like, you know.
Yeah, so and then once it's claimed, that then gives you I think they stay persistent, is what they've said. So if you do build something, it stays persistent, which means someone could come and steal it. I think games like Rust, doing a little base raid thing, and if someone does put a large storage hangar sort of thing there, it's there. You're going to be curious about what they've got in it. But if it's in UE space and registered, then you are essentially protected by the UE as well, so they will respond to it. I think there's some mention in the Q&As about you might be able to hire mercenaries to actually walk around and guard it and stuff like that. Obviously, that's going to be a cost involved.
I see somebody trespassing and say, "Get off my land."
Yeah, you need a pitchfork.
Quite justified and sloppy.
This guy doing.
Your property, like, you know what I mean?
So it's even been touched on with not just habitation units for maybe you could put a refinery there. So if there is large resources that you're actually mining near, you might be well placed to actually place a refinery there to cut out part of those logistics. Now it is just running freight, running the commodities back and forth. So there's lots of kind of variations with these things and options that are supposed to be down the road. But they've even touched on, and I'm probably going more into the land claim stuff here, but farming, cattle farming. We're quite a way away from that, I think, currently, but that's what they're floating. Essentially, the Pioneer might be able to give us.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I mean, it's all good and well putting down your refinery and all the rest of it, but you've still got to feed your guys when they're there. Like, I've still got to supply them, sort of stuff.
And it's a completely different gameplay as well. And we were talking. I can't remember. We were talking earlier today about the SWG cities and that. Where we used to have a mayor. It was a profession, wasn't it? Was it? Yeah, it was mayor, because you do it to try and unlock the
Politician.
That was it. So you have people volunteering to run your little city. No doubt there's going to be some mini game with that, because if you're using a refinery or a factory or a mine, they needs NPCs, whether they're actually walking around doing it or virtual in the background. There's a kind of mini management game with that.
And I wouldn't be surprised if even the likes of Chris Roberts or somebody who's on the dev team has actually looked at what Star Wars Galaxies War and said, "Hey, look at they had all this in here. We can incorporate this into Star Citizen sort of thing." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think definitely look like multiple games. I think, but even the Pioneer, I can't remember what the crew thing is for this, but because most of it is supposed to be automated in terms of the factory line building the prefab units or whatever they will be. But not all of those are going to necessarily be players, so you'll probably have some element of NPC crew that need. There's a mini management game in there with this size ship.
I was going to say, because even though it's automated, you've still got to have one guy overseeing it. You know what I mean? That's just a fact of life. Because I've seen within engineering today, you've got all these CNC machines. So yeah, you just program a pump, set a job, and do it themselves. But you've still got to have a guy there overseeing it in case anything goes wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think
You can't just walk away and go, "Hey, happy days," and then you come back, "Oh, fuck me, something's went wrong here," like, because you've had anybody watching over it,
Yeah. Well, we were talking about the Krakens as well, obviously with the IE sale this year, so they go back available. But even using it, the fact that it's a mobile base, like how useful is it down the road, especially if you're in a larger org? You do something like the Pioneer, it's got turrets and everything on it, there's an element of defense there, but if you plonk something like a Kraken next to it, you've now, like, half your logistics are sorted, because massive cargo bay, landing pads for things coming back and forth, and all the weapons on it. And I think we will see stuff like that happening with people and orgs doing kind of essentially a fleet exercise.
Now, I can imagine that this would have some sort of big landing pad as well, I would imagine, for offloading resources.
Well, I don't know if there are. I mean, I guess maybe there are landing pads. I can't remember how big it shows against some of the other ships, because this is a big ship.
Oh, yeah.
but it might be that it's only spawnable in space. But certainly it can land. There's something. There's some funny kind of landing gear on it, so it actually levels out the terrain or something, or it can at least land level on uneven terrain. But I was going to say, Biv, I'm going to wrap this up now because we've only got an hour till. This was supposed to be like 20 minutes. I think we're near on. Yeah, we're over an hour and a half now. But we could probably do another like 2 hours of talking about the Pioneer, but we'll save that, I think. And land claims.
I do a main talk about it, you know, it's all insightful, you know what I mean?
Because I think we were going to do Aegis, which is in 10 minutes. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to drop the stream just so that it's easier for us, because we were going to do it as pop it onto YouTube as a video. So I'll park the stream for now, and then we'll set back up in 10 minutes for Aegis.
Hey, but I think we left the dash inside, man. Oh, not
Cool, thank you.